Okay, this is my final review of the MGC Square-1. I had accidentally called my first impressions a review, and I fixed that now. It's a first impressions video. This is the actual review. So what do I have to say about the puzzle? After a setup from my friend Isaac, who sets up all of my puzzles, outside of the ones that I get professionally set up when I buy them, which I don't really do that for many. I've really only ever done that on Square-1s, and a few maybe that of other puzzles that I bought that as like a premium for magnets you put in before they were standard. Yeah, so he does most of my setup, and I've got to say, after a setup, this cube is comparable to 3x3 hardware, finally. Like modern 3x3 hardware, which I didn't think was ever going to be something that I'd be able to say, but I'm happy to say it is the case. So one of the things to note when setting this up, at least if you are experiencing a lot of lockups, don't be afraid to tighten this puzzle. Even when super tight, like if you see right here, that's what my tensions are on this. I don't have any issues with this. The performance of this, corner cutting, speed, and everything, better than any other puzzle. There's that. It's to the point where, so if the properties of this puzzle were on a 3x3, it would be competitively viable with flagships, modern flagships. I'm not saying that they would be objectively better, I'm just saying it's competitively viable. Which is great, because I never thought the Square-1 hardware would be here, and I didn't think it would happen this quick if it were to happen. So I'm not going to tell you about the individual specifications because of this puzzle, like, oh, this puzzle turns this way, or this puzzle has this feeling, or whatever, because it's 100% irrelevant to your choice of purchasing this puzzle. The comparison that I can make is a Guhong V2, which I believe is the 3x3 that came out before the first Sanchi, unmodded, just straight up Guhong V2, compared to a modern flagship. If you have to choose between a Guhong V2 and a modern flagship, even if it's not the flagship you like, or you don't like the feel of the modern flagship, if you were going to a competition and you were doing your 3x3 solves and you have the choice between a Guhong V2 completely unmodded and a modern flagship, there will be under no circumstance which you would choose the Guhong V2 or perform better on the Guhong V2 than the modern flagship, even if it's not a feeling that you like or something like that. So, all that being said, there's no choice. This is the puzzle you want. As a matter of fact, when I switch to this puzzle, this is one of the very few instances that an upgrade in hardware will actually save you time. It may be less apparent to some people than others, depending on how you turn. But for me, as someone who, before receiving this puzzle, I'd been, doing some Square-1 before, I was having a hard time getting any sub 8 averages. I could do it once in a few days. As soon as I got this, I was getting sub 8 averages. I was probably getting like 4 or 5 unique sub 8 averages per average of 100, maybe more. I didn't really count them, but that sounds about right. And when I'm saying unique, I mean like that they don't share any times with another one. So like if I have, like if I'm in CS Timer and after my 5th solve it says 7.8 or whatever, and my next solve the average, so on my 5th solve my average is like 7.8, on my 6th solve it's 7.9. Those aren't unique averages because they share 4 of the 5 times. So that's what I mean by unique averages. And so that's a huge improvement. And I've also, just in a short period of time, I have gotten a sub 7 average on it. Granted, it was on keyboard, but I was following all the same protocol that I would on a stack mat, so not touching the puzzle before, not holding it at the end, stuff like that. So this puzzle is the puzzle you want. And I hate to say that. I hate to say that, oh, you don't have a choice. You have to get this. But, like I said, there is no comparison. And it's, you would intentionally be getting a worse result if you had access to use this puzzle and you chose to use a different puzzle, unless there was some issue with a setup or a broken piece or something like that. You would be intentionally getting a poor result. So use this puzzle. It does still misalign in inspection, like I said in my first impressions, which is very unfortunate because it means we'll probably have to use inserts. It happens less, and you will get DNF'd for it. It happens less than before it was set up, but it does still happen. So it's unfortunate, because that is the one big thing I will hammer on this puzzle. If no other puzzle since the Square-1s that came out before the Qi have had any issues with movement in inspection, this should not be a problem that they reintroduce. As hardware gets better, you shouldn't be reintroducing problems that have been solved. But outside of that, there's no choice.